Welcome to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share on any platform that you're listening on. All right, welcome back to another episode. I want to thank you for coming back, tuning in. We want to thank our sponsor, Cheers and Spirits in the Arnold Station Plaza. If you have any wine or liquor needs, or even your beer needs, go over there to Cheers and Spirits. We want to also welcome another sponsor. It's Brian Schilling from Long & Foster Fine Homes in the Annapolis, Maryland area. Brian was actually my real estate agent when I bought my home, my current one that I live in. So I personally know that Brian is the real estate agent you want to pick when you're either buying or selling a home. And I know most people nowadays are asking, well, why do you need a real estate agent when I've got all these online resources like Zillow and Redfin and all these other things? Well, the difference maker for us was Brian knew about listings before they would even come on the market. And so when we were looking at homes about 10 years ago, he got us a tour of the home that we bought a day before it went on the market. And because of that, we were able to put a bid in on it, and the sellers took our offer before it went even on the market officially. So when you use an experienced broker like Brian, there are some advantages that are not insignificant that come with that. In addition to that, Brian also was able not only to tell us if the home was worth what they were asking, but he also went the extra mile, and essentially if he wasn't willing to spend his own money on that house, he didn't want you to spend your money on that house. It was almost as if he was going through the buying process himself. And experience like that is very hard to come by, and it's nothing an app is going to give you. It's nothing a website is going to give you. It's someone that knows the local market like no one else is going to be able to know. And so if you want to use the same real estate agent I used, again, go with Brian Schilling from Long & Foster Fine Homes. The website is longandfoster.com/Brian Schilling, spelled SCHILLING. Or you can also give him a call at 410-263-3400. All right, so what are we talking about today? Well, as you know, we talked about in previous episodes that we were entering our first 10U softball tournament, and we were woefully unprepared.
It's great when you go play some of those teams, and you're like, and I know where you told me the one team you played, and we played them in 12U baseball, so they have two teams, and they actually have, so there's blue and white. Mm-hmm. And blue, I think, is the higher level.
Okay.
And we got spanked. Yeah. It was bad. Now, we beat their B team as badly as their A team beat us. So, okay. But yeah, so I'll let you get into it then. So I learned something about that organization, which is kind of neat compared to where our kids play. So
yeah, it's a group out of the first team we played was a group out of Howard County. HCYP or HYCP, something like that. Yeah. So for girls softball, they have one team in the division. So the way softball works is you've got your A, B, C, and then Rec All-Star division. Okay. We were playing in the Rec All-Star division. We were basically playing in the D division. Yeah. Like it's as low as you can go. Right. And it's essentially meant for girls that played community softball and then joined an all-star team for the summer. It's not really meant to be a travel team per se. They weren't playing travel throughout the year. These girls actually played in the community league. Right. But with the HCYP group, they in their organization they have 4 girls softball teams in each division to pick players from. Yeah. We have 2. Yep. So we basically took our best 12 and their best 12, but they're pulling from a larger pool of girls. But there were some girls there that, not that I say I'm questioning whether they played community league, because I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to rebut it, because there was another team from Alexandria who did this exact thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone would cheat and pull on and put a girl on there that wouldn't be eligible. But 2 of their girls threw gas. I mean, straight. Our girls.
Like, could you hit them?
No, no, not at all. I mean, this girl. I mean, the mechanics were flawless.
Yeah,
it was rinse, repeat, rinse. It was unreal how consistent she was.
Yeah,
and I don't know whether she was doing it on purpose, but she moved the ball up and down in the zone. I mean, she had some missed throws. She hit a girl with a ball.
Yeah,
ball went to the backstop a couple times, but for the most part, it was just up and down in the same plane. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. We got 2 hits. We scored 1 run. We took advantage of the 1 or 2 hits. Now, she also walked a couple because she was a little wild. But, but in these tournaments, what I kind of figured out was if you don't have a pitcher like that, you don't have a shot.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It all comes, and baseball's the same way. It comes down to pitching and catching is huge.
Catching is huge.
And then just not making stupid mistakes. That's how our boys lost. They made a bunch of dumb mistakes. So, like, trying to force the throw from... And we had some catchers that could make a decent throw to second base to pick off a steal. Mm-hmm. But that was under, like, practice conditions. Everything's lined up the right way. They have the good second baseman there or the good shortstop. So... And they're not panicking and trying to rush. But you put that game situation on, and now they're trying to rush, and they airmail it into center field.
So good. I got a good start for that. Let me go back real quick, though. So the second team we played was a team out of Arlington called Spirit. And we looked at their record before we went and played. They were like 12-1. We thought we were going to get smoked. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out in the tournament before this one, they were using an illegal player.
Oh.
So if you play in an A, B, or C, you cannot be in a rec all-star game. Or if you play in an A, you can't play B or C after that. Like the highest level you play, you can go up, but you can't go back down.
So once you play an A game,
that's it. You're A only.
You're not going back to. So it's like once you get to MLB, you're not going back down to AAA.
Correct.
Okay.
So apparently, this Spirit team, they had 1 pitcher, and someone did a roster check, and the girl had played B division games, like way before she got on this team, and so she was just smoking it by people.
Yeah. So
they couldn't bring her to this tournament. So that team we lost that game 6-3. So it was close.
Yeah.
Because they had a girl throwing the same speed that our girls were throwing. Mm-hmm. So our girls could hit off of that. They've seen that speed before.
Yeah.
And I think if our girls had probably practiced hitting off of a speed demon, like we saw, because we saw it again in our third game. This girl was just throwing BBs.
Did you lose the third game?
Trounced.
That's good.
Yeah. So
I hate to say, but you don't want to be the Sunday morning champions.
Well, here's the thing, though. So we were the last to play in the pool play in the playoff play. So the other 3 games had already been done. I'm sorry, 2 of the other games had already been done. The 4-5 game was after us. Mm-hmm. The second and third seed were gone. 6 and 7 bounced them.
Oh wow!
So if we won, we would have had to play either the 4th or the 5th seed because we were the 8. And if we would have won that one, we had a real shot at winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then reality came back, and because we played the number 1 seed, and this girl just threw smoke. Mm-hmm. I think we got 1 hit. Now we lost that game 11-0. And the funny part was, so the one big accomplishment for us is we didn't get mercy ruled.
Right.
Because we lost the first game 12-1, so that was only 11-run difference. You have to be losing by 12 in the third inning.
Yeah.
And because it was 11-0 in the third game, we didn't get mercy ruled there either. We just ran out of time.
It's even better on a Sunday morning.
Let's
get mercy ruled in the third inning. Got my whole day back.
Right. Well, and the funny part was, so we were supposed to play the first game at 9. Mm-hmm. They pushed us all the way out to 1:30 though.
Oh wow!
So we were there. We were in there at middle of the day. And we couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and at least Sunday wasn't too terribly hot. Sunday was
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have stayed on that.
Yeah.
Saturday, I thought I was gonna die. It was 105 real feel outside.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is horrible. I don't know what we're doing out here. And it didn't help that the first game we just got absolutely smoked. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a long day.
Yeah.
But then luckily the second game was close. And I will say this, we probably would have won that game, but me and the other two coaches, and I'm actually going to put the blame on the other two coaches because, I was awesome. And one of the other coaches is my wife. So this is going to go down real well if she listens to this episode. So there was a rule that we weren't familiar with, and it was if you were walked, you could actually round first and go to second. But you can't slow down or stop.
What?
So if you sprint to first and round it, you can go to second.
On a walk?
On a walk.
What would stop you from, like, would the catcher have to throw the ball back to...
Well, the idea is by that time, the catcher, when the girl is on her way to first, the catcher's already thrown to the pitcher, and the pitcher will stare at first base to kind of keep her there.
Yeah.
But if she's not looking or not paying attention, you go. And so we were not used to that because in our community rec league, they don't allow that. You're not allowed to take second.
Yeah, that, and all the, like, so we played in 2 tournaments, had a couple scrimmages at different teams over the summer, and then all season of rec ball, and never once, like, the umpire, like, calls the walk, the player jogs to first base, and then I'll hear the umpire, the ball gets thrown back to the pitcher, and then the next batter comes in and it's play ball. Like, it's time.
Yeah. Well, so the first game we played, this team was just taking second because we didn't know what was up. And so our catcher was a little sluggish getting it back to first, and then our pitcher would put their head down, get to the, like, they weren't even looking at first to hold her there. So this team was just going. And so all right, we can do this too. So in the second game, we're like, okay, let's try and coach this on the fly. That's a horrible idea. So, and we told the girls, if you get walked, run, sprint to first, and look for coach at first on whether you're going to go or stay. If he gives you the go sign, don't slow down, just turn and go.
Now, can you overrun first like you can in a normal...
Yeah, so if they get walked, and we'd use the dual bases at first, if you touch the orange base and turn foul, then it's just like a normal walk.
Right.
But if you sprint and touch first, you have to go. If you touch the white bag. Mm-hmm. Because on a normal play, if you only touch the white bag and go through, it's considered that you didn't touch the bag. So if you touch the white part, you have to go at that point. Because that's the only way it counts for you touching the bag. Whereas if you run through, the runner only gets the orange part. And then you can run through. But if you touch the white part and run through, the rules state it's like you never touch first. So it's an interesting rule. So when they turn...
Is this something that's... Because this is the first I've ever heard of it. It sounds like it's just made up.
So it's in... I mean, the organization is the USSSA.
I mean, that's
which is U.S. softball, basically. And it seems to... Like, I think that's an actual... I mean, I think we use that in the pony rule, too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so in the second game, we're like, okay, we're going to do it. They did it to us last game. We're gonna use it to our advantage. So, first time a girl gets walked, and she's jogging to first, and the first base coach is like walking up to her to tell her to go, and she stops her feet and looks and talks to the coach. Well, if you stop or slow down, you cannot go to second at that point.
Okay.
You have to stay at first. So her feet actually stopped before she got to the bag, which is fine. I mean, she can still go to the base and stand on there. It's not like they can throw her out if she stops and talks for a minute. But because she didn't sprint and go through, when she eventually did it, because she had already stopped her feet, she was called out because she stopped her feet and then tried to go to second. It has to be one continuous motion. You can't stop or slow down.
And these are 10-year-olds.
10-year-olds. Now, don't get me wrong, though. These other teams did it to perfection.
Yeah.
But they had probably been coached up on it. We're literally trying to coach it as we go.
Yeah.
And that was dumb.
Like in between innings.
Yeah. So she got called out.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we're still going to do it. So we send the next girl. She gets thrown out because the catcher apparently has howitzer. She just gunned her down at second.
Right.
Like she was like nothing.
So, I mean, I guess if you have a decent enough catcher, walk and then immediately throw that ball to second base and stop it.
Most of them threw it to the pitcher.
Okay.
But maybe the ball dropped or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she just gunned it down. It wasn't even close. And I think it was my own kid. Mm-hmm. And I like, my kid's not fast. But like she got like this catcher got to second base and my daughter was like maybe halfway there.
Yeah.
And of course they just keep going. Why would you turn around and go back? That would be the smart thing.
Yeah.
Like my kid's generally a smart player. That's why we put her in, because she's smart. She knows where to go. But because we're trying to teach her this on the go, she was like, I don't know what the heck to do.
Yeah.
Like she saw the ball. She saw the girl stand there with the ball. Mm-hmm. And she just like ran into the tag. She's like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do that, just truck the other chick.
That's why. Well, yeah. So we probably gave them 4 outs.
Uh-huh.
By either trying to do that stupid thing that we didn't teach the girls, or and this is where my wife comes into play. She was the third base coach. She had a girl steal. This is what there was a pass ball. She didn't bring the girl to third. Like, that's when you go.
Yeah.
Then the girl catches it clean, and she has her go to third. This catcher threw it to third. She was out by a mile.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where she sent a girl home with no force play. And the ball was like tapped to the pitcher, basically. Yeah. And the pitcher just underhanded to the catcher, and she was out by a mile.
Yeah.
Like, we probably caused 4 outs.
Right.
We only lost by 3. And we could have gotten the top of our lineup only batted once. Because the other thing is, with softball, at least with the young girls, you can bat all 12 in your roster. Mm-hmm. And then you can move them around defensively however you want.
Yeah, that's how baseball was. You know, the 12U tournament, they batted the whole lineup, like bat the whole roster, and then every inning we're moving people around. Yeah, and if you're the game changer operator, it makes for. I just stopped worrying about defensive scoring.
Yeah,
it was pretty much it went to the center fielder, whoever that was at that point, committed an error.
Right.
But that rule sounds like, I mean, I've never heard of that. It sounds like something I would not like. The one rule that I can't stand at these young age groups is the drop third strike rule.
In 10U, that's not there.
Okay, so in baseball, in 10U, which for rec is 10U and 9U, and then travel 9U, that's when it comes in. And my thought is, like, you have these pitchers, the only outs they're getting, especially in rec, are strikeouts. Because a lot of the kids, the fielding's bad. They're walking a ton of players. They're hitting. It's like walk, hit by pitch, walk, hit by pitch. Like, it's just. So then you finally have a player that the pitcher gets 3 strikes, and it counts as a K for the batter, but it doesn't count as an out when it's a drop third strike, unless the catcher picks it up and tags him or throws the ball to first. But the issue becomes, these kids, it's their first or second year catching. They don't know how to play the position yet. Mm-hmm. So now you're putting all this on these poor kids catching, and the pitches are all over the place. So it's just like, you know, I remember watching my son pitch, and it was like he had 6 strikeouts in an inning because of drop third strike rule. And it's like, this is insane. Like, why do we make this rule? And the thing is, a lot of parents don't know because they're so used to what most people, the only baseball they watch is MLB. Mm-hmm. And you see it every now and then, but the catchers are so good, and they're also going 90 feet, that they just pick the ball up, and it's an easy out.
Right.
You know, or you'll have, and the players who are running are like
jogging. And
I'd like to see throughout an entire season of Major League Baseball if anyone actually makes to first base, reaches on a drop third strike.
Right.
Especially you have like Adley Rutschman back there, who's, you know, or you know, Buster Posey back in the day, or, you know, any of these catchers Jason Varitek, like way back in
Any of the Flying Molinas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are these guys going to actually? Are you going to actually? Unless you're like Acuna, and the ball gets past him, but at that point, is it a drop third strike, wild pitch? Like, so I hate that rule. I cannot stand that rule. The stealing drives me nuts because, I'm sitting there watching these games and it's like, this isn't baseball. This is track. Like, because the catchers pass the ball and then they steal.
Can they steal home?
Yes.
See, with ours they can't.
I wish.
At 10U they can't.
So if I were in charge of the world, the first thing I'd focus on obviously is baseball. The important things.
Yeah. The less important what they actually they focus on.
But for me, I would two very simple fixes. On a walk, you can't steal second off a walk. You have to be advanced off a bat to get to second base. And then I'd eliminate the drop third strike until, especially in rec ball, travel a little bit different. The kids are playing more. They're a little bit. They should be better.
Right.
But for rec, it's like, okay, well now are they playing baseball? Or they're playing track, and then you wonder. Like, I watched an entire baseball game where not one single run was scored off of a bat.
Yeah.
They were all steals and errors and pass balls and just nonsense. Like, is this baseball? Like this, and then when you talk to the baseball, like the travel ball coach, they go and say, "Oh well, teach you better teach your kids better then." Okay, well that attitude is why kids are leaving and playing soccer and lacrosse,
right?
And they're not playing because like this isn't. It's not the game as advertised. It's just a bunch of, to me it's a bunch of cheap runs,
right?
And then you do it 5 times, and then. 5 you get run ruled, like a lot of leagues will be 5 runs in an inning, and then you have to switch. So, okay, so the score after 3 innings is 15-15.
Yeah, we it was strange. We got screwed a little bit because the USSSA rule book and their rule book under the exceptions for 10U and 8U. In 10U, there was supposed to be the drop third strike. So that was supposed to be in play. 2 days before the tournament, we get an additional exceptions that we didn't know about. And it was that the drop third strike was off. So now you can drop strike 3 and it won't matter.
Yeah.
We spent 3 days with our catchers on that. I mean, we probably, when we were, because we were really going through, like, because our catchers in Community League, there's no drop third strike. They're not, with bunting, there's usually a little quarter circle in front of home plate. And if it goes there, it's still foul.
Right.
So if you bunt it, you really have to be skilled at bunting to get it out of that circle. So our catchers never really had it. They never had to jump up and pick up a ball and throw it to first. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So what we did was we did 4 practices in a row leading up to the tournament, and we gave them the 2 days off before the tournament. So we practiced Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We gave them Thursday, Friday off. Played on Sunday or Saturday. And for 3 days, we drilled in those girls how to pop up, how to get the bunts, the drop third strike. If they drop it, what do they do? Like we were teaching them, even if with a drop third strike, we wanted them to come out in front of home and throw it inside the fair side of first base.
Oh, you know how many kids I've seen get hit in the back?
Sure. Yeah. So we went through all of that to make sure that wouldn't kill us. And lo and behold, I mean, a girl, the first batter of the first game, bunts. Like, you dick.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact they were up 11-1 or 12-1 at that point, and they were still bunting in the third inning. Like, you clowns.
Yeah. Bush League.
But that team, that's the HYCP team, or HCYP. I'll give you another dick move they pulled later on. But anyway, so we could have practiced some other things if we didn't have to teach the 3 of 12 of them how to play catcher.
Yeah.
like we were teaching them how to block a ball with their shin guards and chest protectors, how to pop up and throw it to first. If you drop the ball, here's what you do. And then we had to practice the throws down to third because we weren't throwing it to second.
Yeah,
because
it's so of all the innings of 10U and 12U baseball I have watched countless kids try to make that out, try to pick that runner off, and I have seen it successful 3 times.
Yeah.
And one of those, the umpire, because I was keeping score, so I was standing right behind sitting right behind the dugout.
Yeah.
He comes back and he's like, he was safe. It just looks so pretty. Because, I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the catcher pops up, rifles it, and a lot of people, like, that throw is supposed to be low. So right where the tag's going to happen. And the catcher, the second baseman, caught it and brings it down. And, like, the kid just was able to, like, probably get under it, but he still called him out.
Yeah.
And then people are like, "Whoa!" He goes, he's out. Yeah, he's out, and you can be too.
Right.
And everyone shut up.
Yeah, we'll get into the umps
Yeah.
pretty soon because I got a bone to pick with them.
So that was, I mean, and that's the stuff. It's like, you know, do you waste? And I would be like just getting flustered, and I'm like, just stop doing things because it was just, you know, it was a comedy of errors. It was they would try to make that throw, and then they'd miss. Well, then that runner gets up. The runner now from third is now coming home because the ball is somewhere in center field. Mm-hmm. The runner on second, who gets to second, gets up and is now rounding third. And the guy, like, it's just like, just bring them all home. So
to kind of piggyback on that, that's kind of what benefited us in one of the games because my kid can hit a little bit. She basically hit a hard grounder, went in the outfield. Mm-hmm. So she turned first. We sent her to second. She got to second. They tried to throw it to second, overthrew it. So my daughter goes to third. And then I don't know where they threw it next, but it wasn't to anybody. And so my wife's the third base coach. My daughter's like going to third, and she's like she's ready to be done. Like she's not fast. She's not an endurance runner.
Yeah.
Like she's gassed at this point. Her mother gives her the go sign, and I just see the look on her face of you gotta be kidding me. She's like, no, I'm good. I'm done. And she's go. So she just starts going, and they try and get her out at home, and they don't. Mm-hmm. I see her come in the dugout. I thought she was going to die. I was like, do we have oxygen? Do we I was like, it's like the defensive lineman who returns a fumble 90 yards for a touchdown. And after that, like they literally have the paddles ready in case he dies.
Yeah.
And I was like, we don't have paddles or anything. I'm like, I was just looking for some cold rags. We did have like the cooler full of ice and the rags in there. And I'm like, I got one. I'm just like putting it on her head.
Yeah.
I'm like, stay alive at this point. Because again, this was the 100-degree day.
Yeah.
And she just did a full sprint around 4 bases.
Yeah.
and I was funny because at the end of the inning, my wife comes in and I look at her and go, you almost killed her. And she goes, I know, but we needed a run. I was like, well, all right. She's willing to sacrifice the oldest. But yeah, and then we just had the girls that forgot how to play.
Oh yeah.
So we have this one girl. She knows how to field the positions. But for whatever reason, she was like underhanding the ball to everybody. Like, you're not pitching. You're in left field right now.
Right.
And she literally, like, she tries to underhand a ball to the cutoff person. And it literally just sails 15 yards over the girl's head. And into nothing. and the funny part was, so like, one of the assistant coaches had coached her during community league. And under his breath, he's just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And we're like, okay, it's one time. She's not gonna do that again. Except this time, so then we had to play at shortstop. Again, fields the ball cleanly. Her momentum is going to third base. She's got to force out at third base. She's just got to make a nice little toss. She's probably far enough away where she can overhand it, though.
Or like throw a little dart.
Yeah. She underhands it and, like, bowls it to the third baseman. Like, she rolled it to her.
She was playing bocce ball?
Yes. We're like, you haven't done that all year.
Yeah, why would you pick now?
You pick now? And then, and then we just, I don't know how many times that happened. It wasn't just her. There were some other girls too. One of our best player, she was our pitcher at the time, our best player. We told all the girls, we got 2 outs. We haven't given up a run in this inning. We got 2 outs. The bases are not loaded. They have second and third, so there's not a force at home. This girl hits a little tapper. Our pitcher goes up, picks it up. She looks over to first like she's going to throw it there. And she underhands it to the catcher, who's now surprised that it's being thrown to her without a force. And, of course, she didn't tag her.
Yeah.
So she's safe. The girl on first is safe. We give up 3 more runs in that inning. Like, we were 1 out away from having a shutout inning. Mm-hmm. And the top of our lineup coming up.
Yeah.
And it was probably our best player. Mm-hmm. Just bonehead move.
That's why I have you like these brain farts, and like with the t-ball kids, like there were dads who were like, "Oh no, that should have been a throw to second." It's like we are fielding the ball and throwing it to first. There's a 3-year-old on this team. Okay, so we are fielding the ball. Like I don't care if your force out is at third base. If you had I had one kid that had the wherewithal. Now granted it's t-ball, so there's no outs.
Sure.
So he fields it, he steps on third base, and then throws it to first base. And the first baseman was picking his nose. Mm-hmm. So it, rolled past him. I was like, wow, we almost turned 2 on that.
Right?
He should have gone to second, but he didn't. He went to first because I told him throw to first. I was like...
He listened.
It was like, field the ball, throw to first.
Yep.
But yeah, they'll have just these brain farts, and it's like, why would you think that? But then the other problem is, you have a bunch of bonehead parents and that's probably going to be a segue, but you have a bunch of bonehead parents that are saying, the ball gets hit, and I feel for these kids because all they hear is, and it's like, they're like, well, what do I do? And they hear their own parents' voice, and they're like, throw it home! I'm like, why would you, Why would you do that? If you don't know what to say, let's try nothing.
Right.
Because saying nothing's free.
Everyone, it's unreal. I never noticed it. I shouldn't say I never noticed. I noticed it in the community league when I wasn't coaching, but I noticed it more when I was coaching, because I'm trying to yell out where to go with it.
Yeah.
But of course I can hear the other 12 people.
Yeah.
It's like, you all need to shut the fuck up.
Right, because you're all wrong.
Right. Or even if you're right, you got three people saying one thing, 3 people saying another, and then you got me.
Yeah.
The other 6 are not important. Me and the 2 other coaches, that's who's important with this. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee that's why that girl threw home. Because she probably heard someone. And, of course, the parents don't know how many outs there are.
Right.
So they don't know a throw to first and we're out of the inning.
Yeah.
They're all saying, throw home, throw home. Like, shut the fuck up.
Right, because their baseball IQ is 0.
Correct.
Their game awareness is also 0. Because in between Facebook posts and looking around, they're like, oh, my kid's up. Or oh, the ball got hit to my kid. Let me yell something.
Yeah, it was just a comedy of errors. Now, like I said, the second game, I put solely on the coaching.
Mm-hmm. Minus yourself.
I could probably throw me in there. I'm sure I did something stupid. I just don't remember it because I'm a genius.
Right.
But I think that was the 6-3 game. I think we probably could have won. And the funny part is that team that we could have probably beat, they went undefeated on the day. Mm-hmm. I mean, partially because they beat us, but they played a really good team in the second game, and they beat them.
Yeah.
And that was the team I think that we played first that had that just laser of an arm girl. Mm-hmm. But, it is what it is. it was fun. I think enough of the girls had a good time where they would do it again.
Yeah.
The only problem we have is because we only have 2 teams to pull from,
Well,
and that other group has 4. I mean, they're
Right.
pulling from more girls.
So HCY or HYC, whoever they are.
Yeah.
So we played at their Kiwanis Park
Okay.
right there. It's in Ellicott City. It's I guess off like Old Frederick Road, 144. I mean, it's a nice facility. I think they have 15 fields there.
Yeah.
And dealing with them and the other teams, like they were, I didn't have any problem with the way they played, but their teams draw from 16 teams.
Right.
So that's a lot of players to pick from. I mean, some of those players, like you might have a team that nobody gets picked from.
Yeah.
So then you've got the B team, which is then the next 16 best players.
Mm-hmm.
So we beat their B team, but the A team smoked it. And I'm like, some of these kids were big.
Yeah.
Had freaking lats and stuff.
They're pulling Danny Almonte.
Yeah. So I'm watching these kids like, that's a big boy right there. Now, granted, it's 12U. So my son it's his first year in 12U. So now you've got a kid he's playing against kids in their second year at 12U who are getting ready to go to the 13-foot diamond. So they're legit, like puberty's hit, like they're big boys. So
Their balls dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you got like little kids, like my kid, and most of his team. But then they also form those teams much earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So they form that team. So like our team gets formed in June, and then, but they form their team in like April. So that team's playing with each other. So they go to the practice for their regular rec team.
Yeah.
And then they get together and they practice with that team, and then they run around and play other teams, other travel teams, stuff like that. So these guys are getting better and better and better, where our kids don't start playing until school's over.
Right.
So there's a big difference in just, like, there were some good ball players on his team, and I think had they started playing earlier and learning to know where everyone was, because before they've been playing against each other, now they're playing with each other.
Yeah.
It could have been, I think they could have done better.
Yeah. I mean, our scenario was we were doing one weekend, and there are some people that already had their summer schedules done.
Yeah.
So they couldn't make it for that weekend, so they didn't sign up. So we didn't have the best 12. Mm-hmm. The bottom 4 or 5, probably, if you were doing a regular travel team or a regular tournament team, they probably wouldn't have made it if you had tryouts.
Yeah.
We only got 12 girls to sign up.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, you all made the team. Congrats.
that was the minimum we were going to take.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to go with 11. So we were actually going to be willing to take 12 to 14.
Yeah.
Well, we only got 12 to sign up. So we got, like, okay, everyone's on it. No tryout needed. I don't think I would have gone with 10 and cut 2. But I think what we're going to do next year is we're going to put it out in March and hold tryouts in March. Mm-hmm. So when they go through their evaluations for the community league, we'll probably do our evaluations for a tournament team.
Yeah.
But we won't start playing until June. Mm-hmm. We'll start play after the community season. Mm-hmm. But at least then we can start right after it.
Yeah.
We didn't hold tryouts until I think the second to last weekend or last weekend in June. Mm-hmm. We didn't practice until the 3rd week of July.
Yeah.
And we just did those 4 practices and we're like, screw it. Because we really didn't know what we were walking into. Like the one lady in the organization who has done a softball travel team, she was telling us, like, look, 10 Rec All-Stars is going to be legitimate competition. She goes, if you don't go in solid, you're going to get housed.
Yeah.
But she also said, even at 14U, she's like, because we only have such a small number of girls to pull from, we go to these tournaments and we just, like, we can't compete. She's like, we can't really start competing until the springtime when the girls have played a few tournaments together.
Yeah.
So the size of our organization kind of hurts us a little bit just because softball's so small. But baseball's even with you guys in baseball though, it's very similar. Where you're pulling from 4, we're pulling from 2, but you're playing against teams that are pulling from 16.
Yeah.
And we're pulling from teams that are pulling from 4.
Yeah.
So the ratio is almost the same anyway. So it's the same disadvantage, whether whether they think it is or not. And the only thing our organization allows us to do is you can have 2 players from outside the organization playing the team, but it can't be at the detriment of a BBSC girl.
Right.
So you can't pick them over you. I guess so. Those 2 slots you can, but let's say you want a 3rd or a 4th, you can't take them in place of a BBSC girl. So it's like the top 10 have to be BBSC, and then 2 can be from outside.
Right, and those 2 could be your 2 best players.
Correct. Because I might do that just to find a pitcher.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's a small organization, but it kind of brings into the question though. So I read a couple articles about these pay to play, and how they really are being detrimental to community-based leagues, little leagues, some of these lower-level travel teams, because you have these pay-to-play groups, and all these parents think little Aiden's the next Adley Rushman, so they go and sign him up to play baseball at $10,000 a season, and it's sucking all of the talent out. So it's a double whammy. Number one, you have less players, and then the players that are there aren't playing with or against higher caliber players. So what you end up happening is the lower level kids are kind of stuck dealing with, walk, hit by pitch, whereas the upper level kids are actually playing legitimate baseball. But then who wants to just play that? And let's not, and I'm not going to get into the fact that, one of the articles I read, and if it comes to when it's like, oh, it's disproportionately affects this rate, I'm like, okay. But when you look at it, it really, if you look at baseball in the United States, baseball is becoming almost like hockey. And because it's becoming like an elitist, oh, my son plays for this baseball academy, elite, select, blah, 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 nose picker club. And the other kids, who might be good enough to play, don't have the money to do it. So,
and softball might be even worse. I mean, there's already a low amount of girls that play softball to begin with, and these club teams, like in Maryland alone, I think there's 4 that I know of. So I mean, think about if each one pulls 2 or 3 girls away from the community league, and it's the 2 or 3 best players you got. I mean, it's really to the detriment of the community leagues.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, it's one of those, what is it? Iron sharpens iron type deal. So maybe the good girls get better. But what the problem is that because they're so young, you don't know who's going to develop later. And it happens with boys too.
Yeah.
All of a sudden Johnny grows 3 feet or 3 to 6 inches, becomes 6 foot tall, and put on, his muscles came in. He was just a late bloomer, and he figured out he didn't have 2 left feet.
Yeah.
And now he's coordinated.
It's the little skinny kid who's like, oh, this guy's a shrimp, he's got no power, whatever. Turns into the 6'5" monster flamethrower. And where'd this guy come from? No, it's this natural biological process called puberty, and it benefited him. Meanwhile, you have the kid that's like this stud that just becomes fat and uncoordinated. So, but these parents think, oh, if my kid's not playing on some elite club by 6U, that he's not going to get a full ride. He's probably not getting a full ride anyway. But if they have the money, they just throw money at it.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a friend of ours, he took his daughter to go play for one of these elite teams or whatever. And he's trying to convince me it's the way to go. And he just put his second daughter in there. He's like, oh, she got so much better after a year playing with these girls. I'm like, yeah, dude. And she's playing softball probably 9 or 10 months out of the year.
Probably not playing any other sports.
I don't think she is anymore.
Yeah.
She was playing field hockey. They were doing other sports, but the time commitment in this thing is crazy if you go to one of those clubs. And those people, there is no playing time guarantee.
Yeah.
They don't have to play everybody.
Oh, no.
When you play with a community team on a travel ball, I have to play all of them.
Yep.
I have to give them all at least an inning in the field.
Yep.
and in the lineup to be at bat. Now, if they don't get to bat because of whatever happens in the game, they don't hold it against you. But you're supposed to. The intent is you're supposed to give them all playing time.
Yeah.
And look, I get it. There are some kids that probably play that frustrate some of the better players.
Oh, I know there are.
I get that. I mean, we had one on the team with us.
Mm-hmm. We had one in Tenue last year.
Yeah.
That the other kids, when he'd come up to bat, because now they're starting to get competitive, and I could see the more competitive kids who were actually like into it and wanted to do well. They'd see this kid come up to bat and they'd be like, he swung at everything.
Well, that's what happened. It was funny when we were playing the team we played on Sunday. You know, we were very fortunate. The girls never did that. Like we had 2 or 3 girls who we were trying to hide them and hope the ball didn't get hit to them.
Yeah.
And we tried to hide one in the infield. And
it's a hard place to hide.
It was.
Second base?
Yep. My daughter was the other second baseman.
Yeah.
And there was a distinct drop off in the defensive level when she wasn't playing second.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the last game we tried to do more to get our best defense out there. So what we did was we played the other second baseman in the first inning. Because the first and the second inning they have the 5-run limit. And the third inning and plus the run limit is off.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, let's get our best defense out there and by the third inning. That's when we want to do it.
Yeah.
So we had my daughter pitch in the first because she's not our best pitcher. Our center fielder became the pitcher in the second inning. But as soon as they were done pitching, we put them right back in the position. Mm-hmm. So my daughter pitched the first inning. She went to second base and stayed there.
Okay.
The center fielder pitched for 1 inning, went back to center field.
Okay.
Then we had our shortstop pitch, who was our best pitcher. I literally, I talked to this other girl before the game started, because the other shortstop we intended to play there was the one who was underhanding everything. Like, we can't do this again.
Yeah.
I can't. I won't live without having a heart attack if I see her do it again.
Yeah.
So we put her in the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
And she's an athletic kid, so the outfield wasn't going to be a big deal for her.
Yeah.
So I went over to one of our catchers, who was also a good infielder, but she usually plays third base. And I went over to her, I said, look, this is going to sound horrible, but I need to put you on the bench for the first 2 innings. Because we had another third baseman who was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using right field for other subs. And so I was like, look, this is going to suck. You're going to bat because we're using the AP so you can bat.
Yeah.
I said, but I need to put you at shortstop in the third inning.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to play there for the rest of the game. And I could see there was a little bit of fright in her eyes because she had never played shortstop before.
Yeah.
I said, look, don't worry about it. She has the arm to, like, she has all the physical abilities to play shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
She can make the throw. She's a smart girl.
Yeah.
She was worried, though, because she didn't know when to cover second, when to be the cutoff. Like, we didn't teach her any of that like we did the others. So, luckily, I had my daughter at second. And I brought them both together. I said, and I told my daughter, I said, look, every play, let her know whether she needs to cover the bag or not. Mm-hmm. And basically we cover the rest with if the ball's hit to your side of the field, you go be cut off. If the ball's hit to the other side of the field, you cover second.
Right.
We basically give her the easiest rundown we could think of.
Yeah.
And we said the rest of it is just field the ball and throw it to where you know to throw it to. Mm-hmm. And she did perfectly fine. But, like, we got desperate to that point where we were like, okay, if we would have had 4 other girls at the bottom of the roster, we wouldn't have had this problem.
Right.
But she was game. I felt bad for her. Like, because girls get, I mean, I don't know if it's boys too, but girls get a little bit more emotional and nervous. Yeah. We had some tears.
Yeah.
And not from her, but from my own daughter was crying.
Right.
Like, oh, come on.
The boys generally, they take it, like, they know they're going to get in at some point. Now, one of the tournaments, my kid didn't play at all during the game. And I'm like, he played the first inning in right field, and then he came out. And essentially what what went down was they had the one kid pitching. He was supposed to pitch 2 innings. He was doing really well, and his pitch count wasn't that high. Mm-hmm. So they left him in. So they were keeping mine in reserve
in case they needed a pitch.
In case they needed to pitch.
Yeah.
Well, then the team's on top. So do you put him into pitch, or because he's generally one that can get out of? He throws strikes. If the team's firing behind him, he's getting out of innings throwing he got out of an inning. He threw 6 pitches in an inning, so he can go for a while. So then coach decided, you know what, I'm going to save him for the next game.
Yep.
They ended up losing the last. There's some shenanigans, and they ended up losing that game. So he didn't play at all. And I was like, oh, this was great. So I just sat here and watched a bunch of other people's kids play baseball for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So, but my wife was pretty upset. But then once it was kind of said, this was the game plan. He was going to come in to pitch, but then we needed to pitch. And then it looked like we were going to win. So the very next game, so that managing your pitches is a big...
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to think you're playing... If you win a tournament, depending on how it's structured, you could play, 6 games over 2 days.
Yep.
And, MLB roster carries, 5 starters and 9 relievers?
Yep.
So they've got 14 pitchers. We don't have 14 players total.
We were trying to make it through with 4 pitchers.
Yeah.
And one of them, after the first game, we realized we couldn't pitch because she was too slow.
Yeah.
And the other girls just teed off on her. Mm. She was probably our most accurate pitcher, though.
Yeah, but she's throwing batting practice.
But she's basically throwing batting practice. We're like, okay. And she was a good first baseman.
Yeah.
So, and my first baseman was a good athlete. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I can put my other first baseman in center field, which eliminated the center field issue for us at the time.
Yeah.
I put the first pitcher, we put her to first base, and then we just went with the 3 pitchers we had left. Managing the pitchers was one of the most difficult things because, and again, I'm talking about 10U, not so much 12U, but 10U, if you take them out in the middle of an inning, I think you kill their confidence.
Oh, yeah. And the boys have that problem too. They're I would tell them, dude, you got to be like a duck. Water off your back, man. I said, you were getting shellacked. And some of it's not all their fault. Fly ball dropped. Grounded to third, goes through his legs. Shortstop fields the ball perfectly, throws it to first base, but he drops it. Mm-hmm. Goofiness like that keeps these innings going.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I need to have some other pitcher bear some of this burden because it's not fair that you're getting tuned up here. So let's get you out. Let's get this other kid in. And maybe it'll wake. It's sometimes like pulling a goalie where, some of those goals weren't it takes 2 mistakes. A lot of times it's the bigger mistakes by a defenseman or a forward.
Yeah.
But, okay, if I'm a hockey coach and I yank my starting goalie and put the backup in, it usually serves as a wake-up call for the rest of the team. Like, oh, crap. We're letting this guy down. And sometimes then he gets shellacked too. It's just not your night.
It was funny. So, when we were talking to our pitchers, they got the other team had some pretty good hits off of them. Mm. And I literally pulled our pitchers aside and I said, look, remember the movie Zootopia? I said, sometimes you're the predator and sometimes you're the prey. And today you were the prey.
Uh-huh.
I go, tomorrow you won't be, though. I was like, one of the things we preached the entire week of practice was learning how to forget.
Yeah.
I was like, the last pitch is the last pitch. You can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on the next one and get that one right. The last at-bat was the last at-bat. Don't take it in the field with you. In the last game, so we were batting my daughter 4th. She struck out in the third game, which was the first game on Sunday. But she was also pitching that. So we were the away team, so she batted in the first inning. And then she was pitching the first inning. She took that at-bat with her to the mound.
Uh-huh.
Her first probably 4 to 5 pitches were rolled to the catcher.
Yeah.
And me and my wife looked at you and crap. She's not going to pull herself out of this.
Yeah.
So we use like 2 mound visits out of 3, just on her, just to calm her down. And I mean, we walked in. She walked in 5. It happens.
How do you like? Because I have all boys, so I don't know. But like with the boys, like, and you learn each player. But like, if it's my kid, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, quit being a dumbass.
Yeah.
And then usually they're like, oh, okay, I'm being a dumbass. Like, yeah, you're being a dumbass. Like, throw the baseball to the catcher. If they hit off you, that means you're throwing strikes. Like, but I don't know, like, with a girl, can you, like, tell them they're being a dumbass?
Nope, can't do it. So, and the funny thing, I've tried. Yeah. It doesn't, it works 0% of the time. Like, it does nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't fire them up. They're wired differently.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, like, when I go out for a mound visit, I usually go with humor.
Yeah.
Because they seem to respond to that better. Mm-hmm. So, like, our friend's daughter, she was pitching the 2nd inning. I used our last mound visit in the 2nd inning. Mm-hmm. And I just go out there and it's like, having a rough go, huh? Say, yeah. And I'm like, oh, don't start crying. No, I didn't tell her, but I saw the tears start rolling. Like, she was not feeling good about it. And I was just like, well, it's like, sometimes we got it and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
I said, but I go, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I'll give up runs. I was like, you can only give up 5.
Right.
Like, we can come back from that. I was like, you need to stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Mm-hmm. I go, and I'm like, an asteroid's not going to come down and just plow itself into you because you're throwing some balls here.
Right. You're not going to prison.
Right. Like, the worst thing that happens is you give up 5 runs, you come in, you go up to bat. Yeah. That's it. I was like, don't worry about that. Like, but they're young and they have such, like, and I think it was because it was their first tournament. We had never done one of these before.
Yeah.
I think if we were to go into next time, they'd have a little bit more perspective, but they just felt, especially the pitchers, they just felt incredibly bad for not pitching well.
Yeah.
And it's like, because they were feeling that early on and they couldn't shake it, it just snowballed.
Yeah. Yeah. It stays with them.
And I don't know, like, look, I don't know if having my wife go out and talk to them versus me or the other coach who's also a guy. Mm-hmm. He's also a little bit gruff and we're not the, lovey-dovey. Yeah, we're not that kind of. Like, I'm out here, I was dropping cuss words. And, like I was dropping them as, like, jokingly. Yeah. Like, I wasn't, like, calling them asses.
Right.
I was like, I told my daughter she runs like an elephant's on her ass, right? I mean, it's meant to lighten the mood a little bit. Yeah. Now, my daughter's used to my humor, but there are still some times, like when she was warming up to go into one of the games on the first day, she couldn't throw a strike to save her life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if you keep throwing like this, I can't pitch you. And she's like, was getting all emotional. And I was like, you got to calm yourself down.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't calm yourself down, I can't put you out there. Like, we can't have anything. And the weird thing is, like, that day, as soon as she got in the game, it's like she got all the bad ones out in the warm-ups.
Yeah.
She pitched great, which is why we started her on the second day.
Yeah.
But it's such an emotional roller coaster. Like, I don't know how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, the boys are such idiots that, like, they're like, there's one kid, he was told, like, because he's playing the outfield, dude, throw the ball to your cutoff man. That's what you're doing. And he decides he's going to try to gun the ball to first base by himself.
Of course.
So he airmails it over the first baseman's head. The second the bleeding stopped, the coach is like, get in here. Right. Pulled him immediately. And he's sitting on the bench like, what do I do? Like, we told you like, and then he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, and then he proceeds to go up and like bang a double at his next at bat. Like,
girls internalize it.
Yeah.
Everything's emotional. Like, boys, it's like they're big old rocks, big old dummy rocks.
Yeah.
You can tell them anything you want. They'll forget 3 minutes later.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're going to forget.
Yeah. Going to forget. And everything's going to be fine. The bird's still chirping. They're still picking their nose. And life is great.
Have you ever seen there's a guy, the videos on Facebook, it's the mound visits with the little kids.
Yes.
And he walks up and he's like, he goes, hey, so, did you wake up today and decide to suck?
Right.
It's all dubbed over. Like, it's not what this dude, he goes, he takes the ball, he goes, this is a baseball. So I love those videos because it's like all the stuff you want to say.
Yeah.
Like, does your brother suck as bad as you? Because like, if he doesn't, maybe he could take your place on this team.
Right. Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, if I do it again, if I actually coach it, which I may or may not, I don't mind organizing the team. Mm-hmm. That was fairly easy. I thought that was going to be the toughest part, and it's not.
Yeah.
The coaching. So I'm like a nervous parent to begin with when my kid's out there pitching, or I'm much better when they're playing in the field. But I get nervous for all the girls.
Yeah.
Like, so I get nervous for all the pitchers. I get nervous for all of them. But when it's your own kid, especially for me, it's like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
you want them to do well for themselves. And I think coaching made it worse for me. Mm-hmm. Just because you definitely feel responsible for I think for softball, it's like I felt responsible for the emotional well-being of them. Mm-hmm. Not so much the physical well-being. Like if they got a cut or something like that, like put some dirt on it.
Yeah,
but the emotional part, like I didn't want them scarred for life,
right?
And then end up with like daddy issues because of 10U softball.
Next thing they're working at McDougal's,
right? Yeah,
you're like, crap, that was my fault,
right? Yeah, I don't want to be the reason they're on the pole. You know what I mean? So
they're really good at softball till Coach Alex destroyed me,
crushed their spirits, and just went a different path. You know, but yeah, so whether I do it again or not, I don't know. But the last thing I was going to talk about were the umps. Because most of I will say this, the parents that were there were extremely friendly.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the division we were playing. Now, maybe it's because we were the worst team and they all felt bad for us. But for the most part, they were fairly nice. I mean, I kind of was like a little pissed off that one team was bunting up 11.
Yeah.
Like, come on now. But I also don't know if the girl did it on her own or whatever. And at that age, I don't blame the girls. The girls don't know any better. They don't know, like, hey, you don't bunt when you're up by 11.
Yeah.
Especially in the last inning.
Yeah.
You know, the game's over pretty much.
Yeah.
Especially when we haven't had like more than a dribbler.
Yeah.
You know
swing the bat 3 times. Let's get out of here.
But that team was also one. So they were down by I think 2 or 3 runs, and the buzzer was about to go off, so they wouldn't be able to start a new inning. They told their batter to strike out on purpose so that the next inning would start, so they would get another 3 outs.
Yeah.
Because they were the home team. Mm-hmm. So the other team would get the bat, and then they would get another 3 outs if they did that. I thought that was kind of bullshit. Like, what does that do to the girl?
Yeah.
Like, oh hey, you suck, so strike out quick so we can get another 3 outs. Mm-hmm. And rather than saying, hey, start the rally, you put the ball in play, you're going to do it, and then we'll get the rest of the people behind you, we'll make the rally, we'll win it right here. I thought that was kind of a shitty move. Yeah. Because again, this is 10U Rec All-Stars.
Yeah.
This isn't 10U-A, Yeah. It's not 12 or 14U or anything like that. This is 10 freaking U.
University of Maryland.
They're 9 and 10 years old. Okay? Have some fucking perspective. Mm-hmm. That shit blew my mind. The umps were douchebags.
Really?
Straight up douchebags. Like, we made sure to tell them before every game we played, hey, this is our first tournament. We probably don't know all of the ways to do things the way you guys do them.
Yeah.
So, for example, there was a call that I wanted to challenge. Like, they called a third strike swinging on a girl who, she was basically trying to get out of the way of a ball, but she brought her hands down to the middle, but the bat didn't come through. So her hands are in. And he called it a strike. Mm-hmm. And she was out. That was her third strike. And so I come out and I was like, can I appeal that to the other umpire?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, that's a judgment call.
It's a piss poor judgment.
Right. Well, but I mean, like, I'm used to seeing a coach being able to appeal down to the other ump.
Yeah.
In the major leagues, the catcher just points and the guy either says strike or no strike.
Yeah. I watched him. I think I watched the first 4 or 5 of the Orioles game before we started, and they were, catcher points down, and
Right.
yeah.
This guy was like, hell no, you can't do it. And then there was another one where this girl was called safe on a steal of third when our girl tagged her out. Mm-hmm. Like, our catcher popped up, threw it down to third. We tagged her before she got there.
Yeah.
They called her safe. And so I'm like, hey, can we appeal that? And so then he goes off on this weird fucking diatribe. He's like, you got to call timeout. I'm like, okay, time.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, timeout. I said, okay, we want to appeal that call at third. Well, what are you asking me? I'm asking to appeal that call at third. Because you have to do it in the form of a question. I'm like,
Was this Jeopardy?
that's what I said. I didn't say it to him. But,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think she was safe.
I'll take bad calls for 500, Alex.
I don't think she was out. Or I think she was. I want to say she was. I want you to appeal whether she was out or safe.
Right.
Was she safe? That's my question. Was she safe? And you need to put it in the form. Like, he asked me 3 times to put it in the form of a question. I'm like, Broseph, you know what I'm asking you.
Do you know what the question is?
Right.
Because I've just asked 3 of them.
Right. I was like, I did ask you a question. You have to say it in a question. Is she safe? That's a question.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, we told you before. Like, if I'm doing something wrong, rather than just yelling that at me 3 times in a row, like you're fucking God's gift, could you please let me know how to appeal you know what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
You know I'm trying to say I don't like the call made at third because the girl's foot basically got to the dirt in front of third when my girl tagged her out. He probably thought it was the bag and it's just the dirt. Like, they didn't clean off the base very well. I mean, you know what I'm asking you.
Right.
Could you not be an asshole for 5 minutes?
Right.
And tell me, hey, when you do this, you want to ask. I feel she was out because her foot hadn't touched the bag before we tagged her. I was like, are you telling me, like, I said, I want to appeal the call at third. I don't want to appeal that. He called her safe. I'm not appealing that you still call her safe for another reason.
Right.
I want to see if she's out, asshole. Reverse the fucking call.
Yeah.
And instead I just got an earful.
Yeah.
And then, like, the game before, or 2 games before, again, this was the first game, so we really knew nothing. There was that rule about going to second. And our girl had stopped her feet. But I was under the impression the rule was once she touches first, if she keeps going, that's continuation.
Yeah.
She stopped her feet way before first base. But once she started going again, it was a continuous motion. Mm-hmm. And they called her out. And I just said, hey, isn't that still continuation? And he was like, she stopped her feet. She stopped her feet. I said, I know. But then she kept going and it was continuation. And like they literally just trying to yell the same shit at me.
Yeah.
And then they're like, do you want to pay $100 fine? Like, they're literally threatening me with the arguing with the ump rule. Like, I'm not trying. Just tell me why that's not continuation. If you say because she stopped her feet before she got there, and that's the reason why. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know.
Clarification on the rule.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, when you're officiating a game, you have to, especially when they're like the best umpires that I've seen. We were actually pretty lucky with all of our tournaments with the umpires. But, like, the best umpires, like, are the ones that teach the kids as well as call the game. So at the Howard tournament we went to, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, like, for the balks, like, the umpire walked up to the pitcher and was like, hey, this, and they gave him a warning on the first one, like, do this, it's, if you don't do blah, blah, it's a balk, and teach them, because they're freaking kids, I always found the arguing, calls in baseball and how the umpires will reverse. I used to ref hockey games. I never reversed a call. Mm-hmm. Coach, blah, 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 blah. All right, coach, noted. It's still a penalty.
Well, the funny, I made sure, because I didn't want to be that asshole.
Yeah.
I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even want to say it loud enough for other people to hear me. And I'm just like I would always walk up to them, like try and say it quietly between innings.
Yeah.
And I just got bullshit back. And I'm just like, and then of course I also had to deal with an asshole parent from my team. Mm-hmm. Like this dude's arguing a call with the umpire. And all of a sudden I hear, basically he goes, "Do you want to pay $100 fine?" And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm jogging down there. I don't jog anywhere. I jog down there, and I hear this guy, John, with the ump. I literally looked at him. I said, "Stop. Please stop talking to him."
Yeah.
And he's still jogging. I said, "Please walk away." Like, I'm literally having to deal with my... I was like, I'm your kid's coach. Please shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, it was blowing my mind. Like, so we had the softball parent. Keep in mind, and with this guy, his daughter is a first-year softball player. Mm-hmm. He's pretending like he knows all the fucking rules. Meanwhile, though, his daughter's like the sweetest girl. Mm-hmm. Was so coachable.
Yeah.
Decent player. Like, I'm like, oh, you got to live in a house with that asshole? And the mother's like a really nice lady, too.
Yeah.
This is the first we ever saw the dad.
Right.
And when he showed up to the game on Saturday, he didn't show up on Sunday. And then after that game, I get the ump comes up to me and goes, "The parents can't be following umpires to the water fountain." So apparently he was like trying to jaw about the call at the water fountain after the game. So I walked up to him and was like, "Look, man, you can't be talking to the umps."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I was just doing." I was like, "I don't care what you were just doing.
Yeah.
You can't talk to the umps. I'm not paying $100 fine because of you." "Well, I wouldn't have you pay it. I'd pay it." I don't even want it to be a discussion of who's paying what. There should be no penalty.
Yeah.
Because you should... I didn't tell him. I was like, you should shut the fuck up.
Right.
This is fucking 10U softball, asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I am the least polite person for the most part. And even I'm not going at it up like that. Like, I was the annoying coach because I did ask a ton of questions. And in between innings, when there was something we didn't understand, I would walk up to the ump and I would ask questions.
Yeah.
But I was very, like, I wasn't yelling.
Yeah.
In fact, I was always asking.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I was like, can you explain this part of the rule?
Yeah.
Or if this were to occur in that scenario, what if this happened? I would just ask, like, I was like the annoying kid who didn't know shit.
Yeah.
But it was never confrontational at that point. And I think the umps kind of felt bad for us after a while. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, though, it was a good experience. I would definitely go again. The parents were amazing, with the exception of douchebag bro.
Right.
But I mean, we barely had to do anything.
Yeah.
Like they literally, there were no roofs on the dugouts, so our parents had 3 pop-up tents they put up over the dugout. They put one up behind, and we actually, one of our parents knew another parent from. We were sharing a dugout with them with that team. So they left the tents up for the other team. The other team had us use their tents that they had set up when we were playing and they were not watching. And then so we basically just everything just swapped.
Yeah.
And like it was that team. I don't remember where they're from, but their name is Honeygo.
Okay.
I don't remember where. They're from.
Honeygo. That's like up there near like Dundalk, Essex. That's Honeygo Avenue or whatever runs like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't have been any nicer.
Yeah.
And when I even asked some of their coaches questions about stuff, and they couldn't have been more helpful.
Yeah.
And there was a team from Tallyville, Delaware, super nice people. I mean, even the team that shellacked us and did the bunting thing, those coaches were super helpful.
Yeah.
Just nice people.
Yeah, we were pretty lucky,
except for the Parkville assholes. No, like seriously, I thought the Parkville people. If I had a guess, the coaches had. They drove 2009 diesel Dodge Rams
with the
smokestacks coming out of the bed. Yeah,
right.
That if I had a guess.
Yeah.
Like, I asked him. I was like, "Hey, can we use this dugout that we've been in?" And he was like, "Were you sitting here waiting for it?" And I'm like, "Our tent's right there. Our girls are in the outfield over here. We had it both times yesterday."
Yeah.
And he's like, "And you would have thought I asked him like $1 million question because he waited like 5 minutes before he goes, what if we flip for it? Like, are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
We've been right here the whole time.
It's like you have to set all your stuff up regardless of where you go.
Right.
Why don't you just set it up here?
Right.
Where there isn't stuff.
Yeah. And it was just like, look there, Bobby Joe.
Yeah.
Can you just please be a fucking human and go take the other dugout?
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, we would have gone to the other dugout, sure. But again, all of our shit's right there.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
Yeah. So I see you woke up and chose stupid.
Right. But I'll be interested to see what your experience is with the new travel team. Because you're doing a little bit younger kids this time.
Yeah, 9U.
Yeah,
So-
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is there's still a lot of instructional going on, and like, so because of that, like it's easier to kill. Like, okay, you recognize an issue, let's hammer that in practice. And it's basic. Then the only thing is we have to teach them all to pitch. So some of them, like they did a year that minors, that hybrid coach kid pitch, and I watched a bunch of games, and there were no kids that I think I saw an out off the kid pitcher like one time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so they're all over the place. Now, luckily these kids will all be a year older.
Yep.
So, and I've got some good help. So, like some dudes that actually have like good baseball pedigrees, like college players and stuff that are coming out. So that should be a benefit. And then, but mainly it's just keeping them engaged, keeping it fun.
Yeah, we did a new practice setup where we did stations. I treated it like football practice.
Yeah.
I did 4 15-minute stations, and then 30 minutes full field. And, and that was it. We were done.
Yeah. Yeah,
kept
and that's
it
kind of
hour and a half.
what we'll be doing is setting up, like I'll have like definitely hitting, fielding, pitching, that sort of stuff, and then working them to like situational stuff, full field. So these kids need to learn like, all right, like basic stuff. If the ball goes to the first base side of second, shortstop covers second base, or and then vice versa, cutoff man, that sort of thing, drawing the lines, stuff like ball bag runner, that sort of thing. Like, okay, because a lot of times, like, kids will be playing first base and they watch too much baseball and they see that stretch. You don't stretch, like, because then you can't move. And then they get married to the base. They're so afraid of lifting their foot. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you might have to step off the bag to make sure the ball doesn't get past you. Mm-hmm. Let them have first base. Because when that happens, you have the ball. They're not running to second. But if you just are married to the bag and you miss it, well, now they're getting first. They're going to get to first. You're going to give them second. That's the question. So teaching them, like, don't get married to the bag. You're playing first base. You still have to be an athlete. You still have to move around.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So
I'll be interested to hear how it goes.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably going to take some of that into next year. Mm-hmm. At least with the travel team.
Yeah.
But well, we hope you found this interesting, to say the least. If you do have your kids playing baseball or softball, let us know your experiences in the comments below. We want to thank our new sponsor, Brian Schilling, real estate agent with Long & Foster Fine Homes in Annapolis, Maryland. His office number is 410-263-3400, and his website's longandfoster.com/Brian Schilling. We also want to thank Cheers and Spirits and the Arnold Station Plaza. Again, if you're looking for some liquor or some wine or your beer needs, head on over there, and they'll be more than happy to help you select a good wine. Wine's always a good gift to give, and you don't want to give something crappy, but there's some good low-cost bottles of wine you can pick up that are very good, and they make great gifts. So head on over to Cheers and Spirits in the Arnold Station Plaza. Thank you again for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and we will see you next time.